Grand Rising and great tidings, one and all. Kiolamal Tengan here. It is, what is today? Tuesday morning, and this is day 10 of Materializing Wealth, a quantum wizardry experience. Hope all is going well out there in the world. I just finished off my morning flows, which is usually about 45 to 75 minutes of stuff. I did a little shorter version today because I slept in. The boys are up and I want to get started on their breakfast. However, I wanted to jump on real fast and just talk a little bit about day 10 today, tearing over that concept of coherence that I introduced in terms not just a place of balance, not just a place of harmony, a place where there is this equilibrium that is experienced within both the masculine, that aspect of doing, structure, of form, the feminine in terms of that openness, imagination, and that intuition. And as that comes into play, a very coherent, or rather cohesive nature is what we are looking at cultivating within this, the law of, the law of compensation, not compensation, apologies, of coherence. There is one of compensation, though, which we'll be talking about later. In this whole concept, though, as we look at this in terms of coherence, how is it that we're able to cultivate this within inside of ourselves? Yesterday, linking a piece called the coherent breathing pattern is a part of it. Yet, how is it that I can create balance in my everyday life? And one of the things that I'm going to highlight tomorrow is the whole concept of our morning flows. How we start our morning can ultimately determine and dictate how it is that we are showing up, how present we are in our lives. One of the first things that I do as I wake up in the morning, for example, is I go through a process of, to a certain degree, affirmations and what's called scripting, going through what it is that I am desiring to create right now in my life. I create not just statements around it, sensations, deep and emotional, and then also go into a whole visualization so that it's a very visceral experience, not just something that's imagined in the mind, of which is being imagined for me, also something that I can actually experience as well. And then I go through again another 45 minutes of stuff, which can go everything from breath work to more like along the lines of traditional meditation, to going in through mobility, going in through release techniques, going in through supercharging my body, going through shielding techniques. I mean, the whole thing. And so one of the recommendations that I have is today, just kind of look at how you start your mornings, because in a way, this is something that really can determine and dictate the rest of the day. Often we start off in a place of routine, for example. We go through these things that reaffirm a certain belief about ourselves. And one of the things about my morning flows is the first thing that I do after I get out of bed and going through those affirmations is I just sit. I sit and I just tune into what my body is experiencing. And based upon that will then ultimately be part of my morning flows. Like, for example, if I'm feeling tightness within my neck, then part of my morning flows may be just communicating with the very fundamental cells and atoms and particles of the neck to find out what's happening, to see where the areas of tension exist, and to then go from there into a place of release, doing some myofascial release, and perhaps I'm doing a little bit of tuning forks to really allow myself to attune into higher frequencies and to move past whatever level of discomfort there is, yet also learning from whatever that tension may be sourced from. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow, actually going through my morning flows a little earlier in the morning, and then also just kind of explaining what it is that I do and how it benefits me, and how it can be something that may also benefit you. Now, as you go through that, though, today, just kind of start looking at what it is that you do, because the routines that we have are different than the rituals that we keep. And the biggest and most fundamental difference is that our routines are almost unconscious. We just do it. Waking up and making coffee, going through, turning on the news, however it is that you start your day. And a lot of it, in terms of that first aspect of our day, is receptive, meaning that we are taking in information, whether it be our children coming in, whether it be turning on the radio and music, we are taking in information rather than allowing ourselves to sit with what exists within. Now, when we sit with what exists within and rather radiate that out, that is a whole another level of engagement that we can create, and ultimately will lead into the remainder of the day. And especially when we, instead of doing a set routine of things, we create a ritual around it. Now, what is a ritual? Well, a ritual is an event or an action that we are consciously engaged in that allows us to shift out of our routines of everyday life. And so let's shorten that. A ritual is an action or event that allows us to shift out of the routines of everyday life. Now, why is that important? Well, I'm kind of at this breaking point right now. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, though there is a lot of stress and a lot of tension that's building up. And a breaking point is where we get to the very edges of our reality, or in this case, identity. And when being here now, I'm seeing all of these different things happening outside of myself. And I'm acknowledging that it's a part of what's happening within. Feeling what's happening within, acknowledging the emotion and the sensations and the feelings means that it's like very much like a pressure cooker, and it's building up, and it's about to burst, and in a good way. The great thing about a breaking point is sometimes it can go into a place of breaking down and breaking through. And sometimes we got to break down to break through. And so I'm at that point. And what that really is about is the very edges of my identity, who I have seen myself as, and to clear space for who it is I am becoming. When we think about an initiation, which is effectively what this is, an initiation is an offering of the person that I have created myself to be, to clear space for the person that I am becoming. And what all that really means is it's very much like a desk, right? With a desk or a dinner table, if there's a bunch of stuff on, right? Single dad, so I've got boys who like to put their stuff, like their toys, onto the dinner table. And so if it's like a big pile of stuff, clothes and toys and other things, there's no space to eat, right? And if my intention is for us to eat a meal together, then I got to clear that table first and foremost. And so this is effectively what that is. This has been sort of a process of placing things on the table consciously and unconsciously, and now it's time to clear it. And this is an open area of opportunity that allows me to really connect further with my own potential. Now, I say all of this because when we talk about our routines, it reaffirms that identity of who I am. Rather, with a ritual, it's something that is not necessarily fully structured and consistent, meaning that there's wiggle room and spaciousness, and there's the capacity to now, rather than reaffirming something specific about myself in terms of a belief in my own identity, how I see myself, and this just reaffirms that, it's something that allows me to shift. And so when my mornings nowadays, at least, is primarily consisting of different rituals, and there are consistencies for sure, certain techniques that I do daily. And the first thing that I do is check in with my body, see what's needed, and then I move from there. And I highly suggest and recommend that, because the invitation being that we can begin to shift this, especially as we look at materializing wealth, because a lot of what comes in with wealth can also tie in to worthiness. And I'll talk more about all that tomorrow as we go into the morning flows. Today, though, spend some time in considering how it is that you start your day. What are the routines of your everyday life? And where's the opportunity to disrupt and to break certain cycles within your morning? That's it for now, though. Time to go make some breakfast. Love and aloha.